Welcome to the Mr. R Show, presented by the MRR Institute. This podcast is designed specifically for tax professionals looking to scale and modernize their practice by maximizing revenue through resources. Join us as we explore expert strategies, innovative tools, and actionable advice to help you navigate the evolving landscape of the tax industry. Whether you're aiming to grow your business or enhance your client experience, you're in the right place. Now, let's get to the show and transform your practice together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Mr. R Show. If you're not familiar with what we actually talk about here, you're probably in the wrong place anyways, but in case you are returning and are an avid listener of this show, you're probably here for one of two things, right? For some personal educational advancement on your tax practice, or I should say, you're here because you're, I wouldn't say cheap, because you don't like paying for some things, we should say. And that's why you're here, because we give free CPE for listening to this. So before you keep listening to this, I will add this caveat. Obviously, just by listening to this on Spotify, Apple, wherever it is, you don't get a CPE for that. Click on the link that's in the show notes. It will direct you to EarMark. EarMark is where we run our CP through. So that way you get all the credit you can possibly get, and you don't have to go back and listen to this again. Although I think we're pretty entertaining at times. But all that aside, today we're going to talk about a topic that we have touched on a little while ago, actually earlier on in the show, about, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so. I believe it was number 8 or 9, somewhere around there. We talk about something called a subscription model. Now, obviously, I imagine we are all paying a subscription for something, whether it's Netflix, your Peloton that you may have to dust off every once in a while because you don't use it, or use it all the time. You have to actually clean it. Down to dog food, anything like this, Netflix, tons of things you're paying a subscription on. So why that is related to a tax practice, we're going to dive back into, and there's no better way to do this than talk to a couple people that have actually gone through this. And well, I guess we could say I'm the guy that carries the most seniority in the room. Not old. We will say wiser than myself. But Chris Pacuro, how's it going, man? And one of these days, Chris, before seasoned, I like that one. And but one of these days when I'm feeling risky, I'm going to try to remember, not just read them, but remember all the acronyms that technically come after your name. Although I'd probably sound like my 4-year-old daughter trying to read the alphabet backwards and sideways. But anyways,
John,
so why?
thanks for that warm introduction. I will say one thing I might add after your name, acronym of PETA. Pain in the
pain in the accountant? What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's all right. That's
Well,
all right, though. We're excited about this podcast episode. You are correct. Episode 8, we did subscribing to a better firm, where I walked through the 8 steps that you need to take to get from a more transactional or compliance-driven model for tax, not just tax and accounting firms, versus a subscription model. So it's really cool that we have that content, and it's very theoretical. What's extremely special about today's episode is we're bringing on a special, not just special, saying a lot of special, a guest that has gone through that with his practice. And Ivan has done an amazing job. We've gotten to know each other over the last few years. We are in the same peer-to-peer mastermind group. We talk about the value of that all the time on this show. And Ivan has some specialties, but also this transformation, this metamorphosis to a subscription model. It's not easy, but it's not easy sticking with what you've got. But he's able to change the mentality, and it has really opened up a lot of other things for him, and just freedoms as far as time. I kind of feel like if someone says, well, what do you think success is? And it's funny, because like you said, John, I'm old. I went to our kids' career fair at the school this fall. My daughter's a freshman in high school, and they have prompted questions. And then one of them was, what do you feel is success? And I think that for me, it's the ability to spend my time doing what I absolutely love to do. That could be work, because of the work I'm doing, I love it. That could be certain sports. That could be watching my beloved Detroit Tigers. It could be a variety of things. obviously spending time with my family is number one. So anyway, I feel like Ivan has done a great job, uh, and over the last few years, and but also I'm excited for him to share a story. So, welcome to the Mr. R Show, Ivan. How are you doing?
Hey Chris, good. How are you? Hey John, how's it going? Uh, yeah, like just like you said, I made the well. How long has it been? I think we met, 2 years ago.
I think 2
Um,
years. Yeah.
yeah, and I can't remember. I think I want to say that you did a webinar through Canopy, and I believe you talked about subscription your model.
Mhm.
When I saw that video, I was like, whoa, you know, that's very interesting. Why aren't we doing this? And like John said, we paid subscriptions everywhere, gym, YouTube, whatever. Every single, everywhere you look, we're paying, those type of fees. And so anyhow, that's first time I saw it, and I was like, man, I should definitely look into it, and I got to see how it works. Long story short, we worked together. You helped me with that, the formula, the spreadsheet. It took a while. I definitely think, it was out of all the, if I've done, let's say one good move every year in my business, I would say this is probably, it takes, the top spot or one of the top, spots of, making a change in our business. Freedom. I mean, it just changed the whole, atmosphere, from simple things like even invoicing. I don't do the invoicing. My wife, who, she's the other boss here at the office. She's in charge of all the, the invoicing. I want to say it should take her, I don't know, 5, 6 hours to, do all the invoicing every month. Now I think it cut down to, less than half the time. So, just simple things like that, it made a big difference. But, budgeting, uh, you, you know, you know exactly, the minimum you're going to get. Obviously, there's always, little extra things, for example, sometimes people call, they want to have a consultation, and that's all extra. But, we know exactly, what we have on the subscription model. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but after working with you, we came out with two different models. There was a basic and a plus. So, most clients, decided on the basic, which is fine. I would say 20%, 30% decided on the plus model. Either way, it worked perfect for clients and us. You know, the one thing that I think that one thing that I think one of the fears is that if I do this, am I gonna lose all my clientele, right? So my wife and I, we got together, we made a spreadsheet of everything, all the clients, how much we bill them for the year, how much time we spend on them, on a monthly basis. And so we had, different columns. Okay, if we lose 20% of clients, this is how much revenue we lose, right? Compared to if we keep these clients and these, X amount signs up to the basic model, we have this revenue, and so forth. So we compared, we did a bunch of what if scenarios, right? Again, it's normal to be afraid of, what happens if I do this. Uh, but in the end, yeah, we had, 2, 3 clients left, but it's almost like, clients actually liked it better because, they picked this plan, the basic plan. They know exactly what they're getting, what they're paying for. It just, I was surprised, to be honest. I was expecting a lot more pushback from clients, but yeah, it worked out pretty well. I think this is the first year we've gone full blown subscription model. Uh, so far it's going well. We get, new potential clients. We mentioned that right off the bat. Our website says that, hey, we're in a subscription model based, fee, and it's again, I think clients actually like that, that they have two options.
Well, that no, and so I'm gonna circle back. We're gonna get back to where you're at right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the history, the name, history, location of your CPA practice? And I know obviously, by getting to know you over the last couple of years, but that you work with your wife, which is amazing. That would be I could barely play pickleball with my wife, but we survive it. I think delegation of duties and staying in our lane, but what an amazing business partner to have that you can really be open and honest with each other. But yeah, can you tell us about where it all started? The idea to go off on your own, where you're located, where your client base is. Do you have any specific niches? I know that you have some distinct advantages over other firms as well.
You know, well, I'm out of the Wenatchee Valley, which is in central Washington, small town. The Wenatchee Valley includes 3, 4 different smaller towns. I would say I think our population is less than 100,000. Between all the towns. It's a pretty small valley. And there's quite a few CPA firms, bookkeepers, and different type of professionals. But there's a lot of work, either that or people like us. We keep getting clients. Uh, you know the the idea of going on my own. I never I never even thought about going on my own. It just sort of happened after college. I was working for a small firm. I think for 2, 3 years. I can't remember. Let's see. Yeah, 2 or 3 years. There was a minor fallout, and so uh, I at that time I remember in town there was a few people who I knew of that were doing taxes. They're just tax preparers, and I kept them hearing people talking about, hey, this guy, he does tax preparation, individual taxes, small businesses. He's doing very well, and blah blah blah. And so I was just like, these guys are doing well. It seems like they just kind of took the H&R block training, and they went for it. So I was just thinking, if they can do it, I should be able. I got a college degree, I should be able to do it. And so yeah, I mean I just kind of went for it, picked up one client. I remember walking down the avenue, our main avenue, just parked my car one end. I had a little little duffel bag, or little professional looking duffel bag, dressed up, took some business cards, and just walked into restaurants and businesses, introduced myself, and hey, I'm so and so. I'm sure you have an accountant already, but if you ever need you know a new accountant or whatever, or any questions, just my card. Feel free to call me. And yeah, I mean, I think I picked up one or two, like just from that walk, and from there on, a lot of it was word of mouth. I don't think I've ever, I don't think I've ever invested on any, advertising, as far as like, newspaper or radio. I want to say that we've always been big on indirect advertising. And what I mean by that is sponsorships of, kids sports, donations to a church, and, things like, basically, you know, eh, I mean, I see, the way I look at it, we help out, and at the same time, those people talk about you. So that's like, I call it indirect marketing, or and then, word of mouth. I think, it's amazing how when someone who's, the way when someone refers you, it's almost like you're already halfway in, right? As opposed to walking up to someone that doesn't even know you. And so we've been very fortunate that a lot of our clients talk, they say good things about, about our firm, and, about me and my team. So that's, yeah, it's, you know, each year right now, we're actually not it, we want to grow, but it's, we've pretty much reached our capacity. I mean, right now we're being very selective. It has to be a pretty big account for us to take on a new client, because we're maxed out. And then some of our clients just keep growing. So we're basically growing with our clients. But back when I started, yeah, I mean, it was just, like that walk through Avenue. And, I like watching sports. So I'll be honest, and, I also got some clients on going to the local, sports bar, and just drinking a beer, watching the game, and then just talking to people. And next thing you know, like, what do you do? Well, what do you, I do this. And like, oh, wow, so I got this company, blah, blah. And so, yeah, each year we just kept on getting bigger. And then, and then 2 years ago, we decided to do this subscription model. So
So thinking
it's
about, no, you made some great points. And if you're, for those of you listening, getting a client is, your client selection is absolutely important, not just where they're at right now, but do they have upside? We talk about in our practice, quote the relationship, don't quote the work. You've got to factor in, yes, some of the compliance work, but is this person going to be uh, a client that grows. And it's funny, we were working on some new CPEs, and John's aware of it, but we basically created this flow chart that takes you from someone that starts off as a lurker. Like they might walk by your office, they might look at your website. They're just kind of lurking around, to a lead, to a lead, to a prospect, someone that could really be to a client, then to a fan. And those fans, you nailed it, Yvonne. Those fans take someone it's like chutes and ladders. Except it's the good thing. You get the chute down to where a client that's a fan of yours is going to bring you someone all the way to their third step of a prospect. They're not a lead, they're not a lurker. And that's huge because now that significantly cuts down the time you need to spend with them, and your credibility is right there already. So you've chosen your clients wisely. I'm going to take you back to when you were strolling down the main street, right? Did you have a niche that you were looking at? And how many of those clients are bilingual? And did that play any role in being able to obtain them?
Yeah, it's again, I just kind of went for it. Didn't have anything in mind. I would just, you know, at that time single, no kids. So, to me, I was, I don't need to make that much money as long as I can pay for my gas, car insurance, and a few extra beers on the weekends, then I'm good.
It was a lot cheaper
But
then, huh?
yeah, yes, I didn't put too much pressure on myself. So I swapped into random businesses. I didn't have any type of business, specifically in mind. But it's funny because I think I want to say that I slowly became, I guess, sort of an expert with restaurants. And I think the reason it happened at that time, I had a friend who had a restaurant, and so that was very nice of him to trust me, with his uh, account, because he already had an account, and so that I always remember that either he decided to give me a chance, and so I picked up that was my first big account, a restaurant, and then from there on, he same thing, he would tell other restaurant owners, hey, this so and so, he's my new account, and you should try him out, and I started taking up more and more restaurants. After a year or so, we started getting some grocery stores, local grocery stores. The Wenatchee Valley, it's a big agriculture town, so we picked up some small orchard owners as well. And now, and as far as bilingual, I want to say that, yeah, 80% were bilingual. So it was definitely helpful to be bilingual. In a market where there's a lot of Hispanics. Now, I got to say that I feel that you have to be bilingual, but not just be the typical bilingual. And what I mean by that is that I think personally, me, it helps me that, I've been going to Mexico every year since I was a kid. And I have cousins down there who, any chance they had, they make fun of me because I would say something, wrong in Spanish, or at least that I would understand. They make fun of me. So, I had to pick, I had to improve my Spanish. And so I think, knowing that, that specific, Spanish slang, and, the proper words definitely helped out connecting with those Hispanic clients, especially those older clients. We start talking about, hey, I went to a small town back in this part of Mexico. And they're like, oh yeah, so it helps create that connection, as opposed to someone that, that is bilingual, but they're speaking the language like, they like they just learned it, it's, you don't create that connection. Uh, I've always said, and I don't know if I read it or just, made it up in my mind, but you always hear about people creating business relationships. I've always said that I'm creating business friendships. And what I mean by that is that, you know, that's the way I see it, because I feel that I have to care about my clients, and my client has to care about me. To a specific, to a certain level, to a certain personal level. Obviously, it is business, but there's got to be some a mutual caring for each other. And I don't know if that's, again, that's just me personally. I don't know if that's, it applies for everybody, but I feel that that's made by my connection with a lot of my clients stronger, especially with the ones that they've been with me for since I started, and that stay with me, and that keep growing, and they keep trying to send me clients.
Right. When I would say that if you're, for those of you listening, I wish I was bilingual, but you can all we can all be bilingual in this way. There's that saying that niches equal riches. So for us in our private CPA practice, we're very heavy in real estate. So we speak real estate. It's a different language. And when you start talking to someone that invests in real estate, and you say, "Hey, I can't," and we're just talking about like, "Oh, I do buy and hold." Like, what markets are you finding any markets that you're getting 1% rule in right now? Are you in they'll tell you which, but then they're like, "Oh, dang, you understand that." It's kind of like like you said, kind of our own slang. So if you're in a certain industry and you know those terms and you can speak to them at that like that, then they're comfortable. That guardrail goes down. We're talking, and we're not sitting in a textbook saying, "What is your return on investment?" What? No, you see, oh, where are you, are you doing fix and flips? Oh, okay. Are you doing Burr method? I see. What lenders are you using? We don't need, in once you, so no matter what industry you're in, or maybe geographic location or segment, you probably have some differentiating factor that you can utilize. So,
That's a very good point, Chris. It's something that I think it makes a big difference. Like you said, you and I we can talk about the income statement, the balance sheet, this account, and I feel that that's if you talk like that to a client, they're gonna be looking at you, but they're gonna be lost. It's like talking to I mean, yeah, you got some clients that are very they have an accounting background, but in general, yeah, I think you should translate those reports into something that's a more common conversation.
hmm absolutely. And so with you starting the firm when you're very young, obviously you're still young. You now have a family and you work with your spouse. We're going to start jumping into how you did it, but what was that one other than seeing our video on Canopy Tax? There had to be something before then, that aha moment that said, I can't keep doing this turn and burn uh, model. You're gonna wear yourself down to nothing. But
I've always been very careful to keep a balance. So I'm gonna go back a little further. I think it was my senior year in college. I remember I had a two or three, a few job interviews and then some job offers. So at that point, I was still going down to Mexico in December with my parents. Just like they got used to doing that since I was in fifth grade. And so I got used to that. Basically for me it was normal. December, come December, we're heading down to Mexico, hang out with the family, eat a lot of food, parents, drink a lot of beer, whatever. So that kind of stuck with me, right? And so I remember one specific I can't remember the name of the company. It was a pretty good offer. I think back in 2008, I think they're offering, I don't know, 50K, 40K, that was a pretty good amount. And then at the end, the guy was like, do you have any questions for us? And I was like, yeah, how much time off can I get? I was like, I don't care if you don't pay me. I just, I explained to him, the reason, like, I'm so, family tradition. We go down to Mexico in December, for the whole month. I was like, you can work me like a slave for, from January to November. I just need December off, even if it's not paid. And the guy was like, well, you get 1 week the first 2 years. After 2 years, might increase 2 weeks, and then after 5 years, blah blah. And so I was like, okay, well, thanks, but no thanks. He's like, well, you sure you're gonna get to travel? You're gonna make this much money? Blah blah. I was like, yeah, thanks again, but no thanks. And so I think it really helped me that me going down down to Mexico, and just even though on Mexican American, it's not the same, hanging out with your, family here as opposed to hanging out with your family down there. I think going down there really teaches you the way life is down there, just the whole culture. Uh, and it was just something that kind of stuck to me, like, hey, I need to find something that's going to give me that balance, of not working too much. And so when I started, I was never trying to get too many clients where I was gonna make a lot of money. So money was never really, and it's still not the goal. It's like make a good living, but keep the balance. Uh, and so after a few years of charging the typical hourly base fee or fixed monthly fee, I just I just started to see how sometimes some certain clients questioning the fees, and it was kind of you know not, I wouldn't say it would bother me. Just kind of it was a little stressful because I was like, man, I just did this much work. I gave them a discount and they still complain. So what am I doing wrong? What's going on? Like I was just I was compared to like lawyer, man. Like I'm like, lawyers, they charge us for the emails, and they'll put 5 minutes for an email, 3 minutes for a phone call, and people never complain. And yet with the accountants, we get pushback. Uh, and so I remember, when we started a flat, I think a flat monthly fee. Well, no, I started hourly, and then after a few years, we changed to I think depending on the size of the business, I think it was a flat monthly fee, which included payroll. And so, like thinking back, I'm like, man, what was I thinking? Because people, especially agriculture during the crop season, yeah, like 100 paychecks per week or whatever. I mean, there was tons of payroll. So then I think I want to say in 2015, 16, we took payroll out of that monthly fee, and we decided to charge on a per check basis, per pay period at per check basis. And so that kind of made it a little better, but it still wasn't. There's still something in the back of my head. I was there's still something that is just not. There's got to be something else. And I remember reading about value based pricing, of value, putting the value on not a number value, but just value, basically the value of your knowledge, not the value of your time. And so that kind of from there it led to me finding out about the subscription model. Because I wouldn't say that most of us we do. I mean, we just if I spend 15 minutes, I'm gonna charge you 15 minutes, right? But I remember one time someone's made an example. They're like, look at it this way: when you recommend a client to change from a sole prop to an S corp, for example, form 2553, it may take you, let's say, 30 minutes max, right? But just making that change, you just save that client possibly $10,000, $20,000, and you're gonna charge him $100 for that form. And so that got me thinking. I was like, okay, if I gotta, I gotta keep reading, I gotta keep doing research, and what can I do to change? Because at that time, I knew I wanted to make a change. I just didn't know what or how I was gonna make the change. And once I saw your video in Canopy, I was like, well, this is it. Well, I contacted you and everything. We talked about the services that I do, and yeah, so it was I guess a slow process,
Right.
and bits and pieces of me to where I'm at now.
So making that change, right? Did you either go cold turkey and say, look, I'm not doing anything but subscription? So you kind of have a couple different things going on, right? You've got any new clients. I feel like it's a little easier to go to subscription model with them. Then you've got the current clients that you either have to say, we're going to grandfather you in where you're at and eventually have to go to subscription, or your option is, sorry, you've got to go to subscription only. Then you have to deal with the clients that refer people that are going to be subscription, but they get grandfathered into certain pricing, because that's the tough part, right? 'Cause, hey, I mean, I know this, like I mean, our minimum membership now is $5,000. Our average was 10,029 for 2024, and then this year's about 14,000. Again, it's all relative. We don't. It's the point is, we might have someone that's a legacy client that would be priced at $7,000 a year right now, that's probably paying 3,800. So they might say, oh, when you made that transition, what was your pricing strategy? And then I want to circle back after that. You're a very nice guy, and I hope that people think I am too. So I needed guardrails, and I'll admit that I needed guardrails, and my business partner and I met about several times and came up with this is our pricing tool. The one I shared with you is different than the one I use now because we changed up like doing certain services and not. So your pricing tool could always evolve. But I feel it's very important to develop a pricing model to stick to because you can get into what we call nice guy, nice girl syndrome where you're like, oh, I think they could afford 300. Yeah, but you should be paying 700, you know? So the role of your pricing tool, I know I went around in circles a little bit, but before we get to that, how you communicated that with current clients and then how you started making that transition because that's the hard part, especially you are very involved in your community. I think if people that are listening to this right now, you are involved in your community. Now that community could be let's say you specialize in, I don't know, we I'm trying to think, hat manufacturers, right? So you might not have a lot of hat manufacturers in your community, but you're part of these Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups and trade associations. You still have a community, or you're in your local community. You might be coaching someone who you prepared their parents' tax returns for the last 5 years, and now you've got to tell them that your prices are getting tripled. I don't, so you've got to, so how do you manage? I know I've just rambled on and not asked too many. First thing, how do you manage the price conversation with current clients, or did you, how was that experience as you moved over to membership based?
It's yeah, I mean it's a tough situation, but you know, well, not tough, uncomfortable, right? Especially like you said, when you prepare or provide services to the kid that you coach's parents, and like you said, I'm a volunteer coach for boys and girls soccer and mountain biking in summer. So I do get a lot of parents that I know to coming for my services. I actually just went through that, with one of the parents, making a change. But before I answer that, let me tell you how I made the switch. So the way I started was, I want to say that a month after you and I had our meeting, I think I want to say it was August of man, what is it, 25 already? So I think August of 23, I think it was when we first talked. After you and I finished those 3 sessions, I want to say that I picked 10 clients, 10 of my, my bigger clients, uh, and that had been with me for a while, that I felt, really, valued about our services, really trusted me, to make the right decisions for the businesses. Uh, and I set up a meeting with all those 10 different clients and I talked about, my new services. Hey, we're gonna be making this change. It's gonna be a lot better for for your business. More advanced tax planning, more advanced services in general. Uh, you know, we're not doing it yet for all clients. I'm starting out with just a few clients, and I thought it was, I thought that you would be one of a good candidate for this new service. And so, long story short, I met with each one. I explained to them, the new service that we're gonna be offering. Out of those 10, I think 6 of them decided, like they signed on to it, and so, which was good. I wasn't expecting all 10 to sign on to, to the new model. In fact, my goal was maybe 2 or 3. Uh, and, and so it was a lot better than I thought. And it's funny because, and some of them, I felt like the fee was kind of high, but I was, what, I'm going to mention the fee. And if, they mention it, you can work something out. But no, a few of them, I think it was like 2,500 per month. So
Wow,
it was,
that's a
yeah, it
lot.
was pretty
Yeah.
big. Yeah, but what I think what, out of the many things that I mentioned, one thing that I mentioned was, hey, with this plan, you can, come meet with me every day if you want to. Talk with me anytime you want. So it seems like that was like the big thing for a lot of clients, having access to meet with me without having to worry about, okay, how much more am I gonna pay, right? And so I started with those 5, those 10 clients, and then 5 of those signed on to it. That was the first year. And then let's see, I think last September, October, after we went through the whole clients, my wife and I went through the full list of clients and, worked out the basic and plus plan for each client. We sent out a letter, again, I think it was October. We mentioned, hey, we're going to be changing starting January 1st, 2025. We're going to have 2 different models. You will be getting another email as a reminder and with your new quote on the basic and the plus. So we send the first letter in October, I think November, and then December we send out the actual quote. Please sign, whichever one you would choose, and let us know if you have any questions. But before we did that, we already had that, that spreadsheet where we, made a bunch of what if scenarios. If you lose 20% of the clientele, we're still going to be at this much revenue if this many people sign up to the basic and if this many people sign up to the plus. And so, yeah, I mean, so I would say, if someone's going to make the change, I would say, do the same. Start out with 5, 10 clients. Pick the ones that, that you feel are, the value services a lot and that you feel that would be open to, more advanced services. And then from there on, maybe a year later, make the big change.
Well, a couple of things you said. Well, have realistic expectations. 6 out of 10 is phenomenal, by the way. Also, if you're doing pricing, don't give them too many choices, but give them the choice. Anyone who's raised kids knows one of the secrets is to make them feel like they're making a decision that you're happy with both decisions. Hey, do you want grilled chicken or do you want tacos for dinner? Well, I didn't ask what you want for dinner. I'm not going to go run and get pizza just because you want that, but these are your choices. And you gave them the choice, and it gracefully lets them not make a choice. Because no decision is a decision. So if they don't sign the engagement and you don't really want to continue with them, it's very easy to send an email. Thank you so much for your years with our firm. We see that you didn't renew your engagement with us. We'll leave your client portal open for 30 days, whatever you want to do, or you can come by and grab your stuff. Because a lot of times they might say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I wanted to stick with you. Sorry. So you kind of put it on them. Through the process, did you identify any services that you had to either add or drop?
I wouldn't say that. It was more like, I don't think I added let's see. I think it was more of a lot of services that we were doing that were not being billed for. These little things that kind of slip through the cracks. For example, being a registered agent for a lot of the the LLCs and corporations. That was just kind of like, okay, it's just there. I'm gonna sign up with put me as your registered agent and we'll take care of any correspondence that we get. And that's one of the things that it was, I guess you could say, we added to that list so that people know, hey, we're doing this for you. Because, that's one thing that we never, we should have been billing, I don't know, an annual fee for being the registered agent because, that takes time. Any correspondence for an LLC or for a corporation comes to your office. You got to open the envelope, you got to read what it says. And if it's something important, you got to email, contact your client. And so that's one thing that we were already doing, but it was not built. And so we added that to the list so that, hey, this is something that we're also doing for you. Business license renewals, insurance audits. Honestly that I don't do them, but I think my wife would take care of those. And I want to say that we took that off off the list. Let's see. Besides that, again, it was just a lot of things that that we were already doing, but actually billing. And so it was good to put that on the list so people know what they're paying for and they know what they're getting from you. Another thing that I forgot to add is that when you set up the meeting with the first clients, I would definitely prepare study your list, make sure that you know exactly what's on your on your plus list, on your basic list, because they're gonna ask questions. Like, hey, I thought you already did this, friend. Well, yeah, but it wasn't being billed for, and it takes as much time. It saves just be open, be transparent.
Other industries do that all the time because you've got I'm trying to think of some, Sometime maybe you went to a certain restaurant and you would sit and order a coffee for like, and sit and drink 5 refills, right? So that, okay, well, you get it now, well, minimum orders $5 an hour, just whatever it is. And like you said, you really need to think about your client relationships as a partnership. They're not, you need them, and they quite frankly need you. And trusting them, reaching out, trusting them to that you're going to offer them this program. Now you did mention when you reached out to those 10 clients, one of the benefits is that they have unlimited access to you. That's a very scary thing for a lot of accountants to do. I firmly believe, and you also mentioned paid time off when that first job interview. We've had unlimited paid time off for almost 10 years for our team. If someone's going to take advantage of it, they probably shouldn't be on your team. They're not very aligned with what you have going on anyway. If you give clients unlimited access to you, I want to talk through some of that with you. Do you feel like if then they accepted it, right? Because a lot of accountants are really worried about that. Has anyone, do you feel, taken advantage of it?
You know, that's a good point and a good question. It is scary, right? Because now you're thinking, man, this client's gonna be thinking, well, I'm paying this much, I'm gonna meet with them every day as much as I can. And I I gotta say that not one single one of those clients is taking advantage of that. They call when they need to, when they have a question. They email to set up a meeting when they feel that some changes are coming up in the business. But as of now, I haven't had one client take advantage of that. I think for the most part, people that sign up to the Plus model, which is the one that offers unlimited time with me, those clients have been with me for a while, and so I feel that they know that I've informed them enough throughout the years where they're not they don't need to be with me so many times throughout the year, just enough when they're gonna make a change. I guess you could say that they're well educated in the business and where they're trying to go.
I would agree. We've had clients that took full advantage of the membership, but don't feel like we've had someone ever take advantage of it. That being said, I'm going to pivot a little because one of the other misconceptions about moving to this membership model is that your income is limited, because you could always add on to the membership. I know you have clients that own markets and restaurants. They might open another location. Okay, then that's an addendum to the amendment. That's redundant. That's an addendum to the membership. Now, are you going to double it? No, but it's going to go up based on what has to be done. But the other secret sauce, and I'm going to touch on this with you, you and I have started to collaborate a little bit on tax plans. We've done a couple together. When you start getting into tax planning and strategy, there is a significant amount of deepening of client relationship, and also value, and also potentially compensation. So if you are working with a client on a membership and you have that open door policy and they come to you, typically there's actually more opportunity for your firm to grow by that meeting. And so I'd like your feedback on, as far as when people come to you, how many times is it, how are your kids doing in soccer, versus I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing this, and it's actually led for more ways for you to service them.
You don't. I, I gotta say that again, my philosophy about building business friendships really helps having that connection with clients. And so I think with the Plus clients, every meeting it doesn't start with business. It starts with hey, how's it going? How was that? How do you go over here? How do you go over there? With so your family or kids or whatever. And then we start talking about business. You know, again, the Plus clients, they've been with me for a while, and so I guess we have a bond. They really trust me, so we during our meetings we talk once we get over that, the personal stuff, we talk a lot about that direction that, they're trying to go, the current situation, what kind of changes that, that they want to make. They'll ask me for suggestions. Hey, sometimes it's simple things like, hey, we got this new admin in our office. What do you think we should do, with this person that's coming in, that's going to take over this person's part of the job, and simple things. It just if point is that you're communicating, you're talking, getting information, providing ideas, and then once you go to a tax client, I've noticed that these clients really, really, appreciate it, and they're impressed with how much, they can save, by doing tax planning, by staying in communication with me. Those two clients that we worked on, you and I last year, I mean, they were super thankful. They were super thankful. They were happy, and they were excited. It's funny, they were excited about doing their taxes this year because that's fun for us. Uh, and even I'm excited, but like I got them on an extension. I'm excited once I present them with the final results. Uh, and so those clients, again, they keep trying to send new clients. It's sort of like when again, when you go to restaurants and you get good customer service and good food, you don't worry about the price.
Absolutely. I mean, being proactive and knowing more information allows you to help your clients so much and helps you be efficient. I've got a really quick story. So one of our vehicles broke and it was stuck in our driveway. Very frustrating situation. And it it was if you get it towed, that's a lot of money. You don't know what's wrong with it. So I called a buddy of mine who's a gearhead. He came over and he's like, you know what? I think it's this part on the shifter. He ran a diagnostic. I don't think it's the transmission. We got a mobile mechanic to come out. But because that my friend came over and looked at it, I sent that information to the mobile mechanic. The mobile mechanic had about a 95% certainty he knew it was wrong. It was literally a little part the size of a quarter, right? In the gear shift. Before he got here, stopped at the store, picked up the part, came here, fixed it. He was in and out in literally 20 minutes. I gave him a pretty good tip because I was happy. The point is, he solved my problem of not having transportation, but because I didn't worry about, I never asked how much it was going to cost. It was actually a lot less than I thought it was going to be. I had a problem. I communicated with him in advance, said, hey, just so you know, I'm not a mechanic. My friend came over, ran a diagnostic. This is what we're thinking. He's like, cool. He came over prepared, in and out, made the same amount of money as if he would have came here, bozoed around with it, then had to drive, go get a part somewhere, come back, and we could be the same way. We could be the same way with our clients. With a little bit of knowledge in advance, we can look forward for them. So if you're providing payroll processing, bookkeeping services, tax strategy, and looking ahead, you could be more valuable. And like you said, the last thing, like going to a good restaurant, the last thing the client's thinking about is how much does this cost? What they're thinking about is how much value do I have here? Because we don't want clients being afraid. I have had incidents with attorneys. We've gone through a lot of IP with teaching tax flow and this Mr. R and all this other stuff. But the point is, I remember being on calls and there were like three people on, like, do you really guys really need three people on this call? And you get a bill for three people. And I know I'm very much against a timesheet. But when that client has a mentality like they have with you, you're a resource. But you're going to add value to them, but you're also going to add value to your firm. Want to touch on before we wrap up, you were very good at a young age of creating boundaries and for yourself. I believe a lot of the people on your team have been with you for a long time. So if you're accounting firm owner, tax firm owner, you have anyone on your team other than yourself, this is very, very important. We know that 75% of CPAs are leaving this profession in the next 15 years, and we have a third less people sitting for the CPA exam right now than we did 20 years ago. We have what's called a pipeline issue and a retirement cliff. How do you go about creating a culture to set the boundary for your team members? Because as a firm owner, I've always believed that my personal clients are the people on my team, and also the people I work with. It could be an implementation partner, or it could be, it's the person that we work with for cost segregation studies. I've got to make them happy. They're my personal clients because our clients are talking to them way more than they're talking to myself or my business partner. So what have you done within your culture of your firm? Because I know you have a lot of great retention. We speak a lot. We're in that same mastermind group, and you have nothing but amazing things to say about people on your team. And I bet that they really enjoy working uh, at your firm. We'll make sure they don't listen to this. We don't want you getting 20 phone calls about getting even more raises. So
Um, again, so my wife is part of the team. She's the other boss. She takes care of basically uh most of the stuff, right? It's fine because I think she's the one that helps me keep a balance, even though I know that I want to maintain that those boundaries, that balance. Sometimes I just kind of forget about it, and she kind of brings me back to reality. Hey, this and this, right? Uh, which I think this working with wife should be another topic. You can make another
yes.
episode next, and and I'll tell you how that works because it's a lot of work. But anyhow, again, I think that my background of those trips to Mexico really kind of engraved that in my head. How people down there, they work, but they enjoy life as well, right? So you know, uh, I really don't have one specific secret on how to keep the boundaries. I just, I kind of think, okay, what would I want if I was working for someone else, right? And what would make me happy? And so I go for that. So for example, here at the office, I encourage, the whole team, hey, every 50 minutes, take a 5-10 minute break, go in the hallway, huddle, I don't know, talk about gossip, I don't know, whatever. Just go in there and, just talk. And so, it's 4 girls, 2 guys. So girls are very good about doing that. They get together and they're loud. And so once you hear that noise, then me and the other guy, we kind of go out there and just kind of listen. We don't really get in the conversation because we just kind of listen to them. So I always encourage hey, take a little break. On Wednesdays, and I can't remember when we started this. I think we started this 3-4 years ago, and this goes back to what I've seen in Mexico as well. On Wednesdays, we close the office from 12 to 2, so we all go out to we either all go out to lunch together, and that's the office pays for it, or everybody just kind of goes their way. But the point is that they have 2 hours to do whatever they want. The other days we don't close, but people are free to leave for lunch whenever they want, take a break whenever they want. We're very open, with that type of stuff. Obviously, what we all, well, it's only 6 of us, so it's easier to keep control of that. If I can see how it'd be a little more difficult if you have more employees. I think it's doable. It's just you have to it's a little more work on how to keep it under control. On Fridays, we decided to close 30 minutes early, 4:30. Uh, so I think all those little things, those little things that don't cost the firm a lot, I think they give you a big value with your teams. Uh, and again, I just always think, okay, what would I want if I was working so? And so I think okay, that 2 hour break, pay, and it's paid. It's not like, hey, leave for chores, you're not paid. It's all paid. I think that's something good. Then 30 minutes closing early. Obviously, holidays, the main holidays, and then another thing is like, for example, Thanksgiving. I remember working, I think, when I was in college and, after college and having that Thursday off, but then having to come back on Friday. I hated that. To be honest, I still do. I hate that, you know, because you unwind and then you got to get back into it. Like, man, this is not cool at all. And so, we decided, hey, let's close Thursday and Friday, give them the whole, all 4 days off, paid holidays. We do the same thing with Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. The 24th and 25th, we're closed. In fact, for back to Thanksgiving on Wednesday, we closed off at noon. And I think a lot of times, people don't want to do that because they're thinking, well, the clients are not gonna, they're gonna be unhappy, that's and that. But you know what? I think it's the opposite. I think most clients actually appreciate that because they're human beings. They're thinking, hey, these guys, actually, treat their team, good. They treat them like they're like good human beings. So I don't think I don't think it's a negative impact on the business. I think it's a positive impact. And I don't think In fact, I don't think any of those, the extra days that we close has had a negative impact in our business. So anyhow, yeah, and like I can't really say one thing or the other. I just think just the small things, that keep your team happy is what it helps you, keep those advantageous as well.
Awesome. And Ivan, it's funny, I always joke on this show that I'm like the conversation grim reaper, right? I always come in at the end and I'm like, all right, there's the hatchet. Let's kick this. And as I'm just sitting here listening to you guys, it's really nice to hear that too, because like obviously I've known Chris for so long and a lot of his team really, and I've seen them go through that process, back to making that shift to the subscription model on the client side, right? And so it's interesting to see it's awesome, I should say, for lack of better terms. It's incredible to see other people following that because it's a heck of a shift, right? Like it's not like you're changing your internet provider, in your office. There's significant there's a ripple effect that I'm sure the hardest thing, and you mentioned a little earlier on too, that one of the hardest things is try to figure out, not only should I do it, but how am I going to do it? And when I do eventually do it, how are people going to react to it? Because right, it's kind of difficult to go back to the old way, right? And you can't wake up and say, "Oh crap, I just lost all my clients. It didn't work. And now what do I do?" But I've never heard Chris or anybody even say like, "Hey, we went to this," and there's been a handful, and they were shocked on how bad it was. They're always shocked at how good it works, right? Because there's a thought process and really a whole process you go through just to deploy that. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know, listeners have been on this for a while, kind of chiming in. And I always think of it as like eavesdropping in on a conversation between a couple guys. You guys had a great conversation around this, but then we're gonna have to have you back, man, and talk on that. So when we do cover the topic of working with your spouse, you inadvertently signed yourself up for that. I hope you know that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Well, yeah, that's we should definitely do it, but maybe we should do it in person and maybe with a little bar saying,
Exactly. You'll need a lot of margaritas
Yeah.
and a distance from your spouse when we talk about this.
no,
But
that would be great. I think we'll have to check. I can't remember if we were going to be attending any of the same events this summer, but if we are, definitely. We've recorded live from these things before, so
all right.
well, awesome, guys. Well, thanks, Chris, for thinking of bringing Yvonne on here with us. And obviously, you guys have worked together on multiple projects and continue to, as
Yeah.
well as Yvonne. We appreciate you being a part of the mastermind that we have as well, too. So thank you for taking the time, man.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Awesome, guys. And again, anybody that's listening to this, if you have any questions, you are a tax pro, yes, but is there opportunity to grow? Is there opportunity to shift? Is there opportunity to, we'll say, elevate your practice? Think of yourself as, not only the practitioner, but a business owner. And how would you treat it if you were one of your employees? So think about it. Maybe put yourself in your client's shoes. Say, hey, what would I do about this? What would I like to see changed? Kind of shift your, I'm going to use a word here, Chris, that we just did a podcast on a different show. Shift your mindset a little bit. And you may completely revolutionize the way that your practice runs. So that being said, we'll see everybody back here again next time on the Mr. R Show.
You've been listening to the Mr. R Show, presented by the MRR Institute. For more content like this, be sure to check us out on YouTube for weekly expert tips. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to stay updated on the latest strategies for scaling and modernizing your tax practice. Looking for more? Contact us at mrrinstitute.com for practice resources, coaching opportunities, and a peer-to-peer mastermind group. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer of securities. Offerings can only be made through an offering memorandum, and you should carefully examine the risk factors and other information contained in the memorandum. The content provided is for educational purposes only. We encourage you to seek personalized investment advice from your financial professional. For all tax and legal advice, please consult your CPA or attorney. Investment advisory services are offered through Cabin Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cabin Securities, a registered broker-dealer.